Hello, and welcome back to the Chris McPherson Show for another daily dose. We are talking Wallabies and what turned into a real test of the heart rate in Tokyo. It was a night of rain, risk, and in the end, relief as Australia just scraped past Japan to kick off their spring tour in somewhat shaky fashion. New captains, new combination, some disallowed tries, moments of brilliance, and moments of what was that all rolled into one. We're going to break it all down, what went right, what went wrong, and what this says about where the Wallabies are headed. Before we dive in, make sure you're following us on socials. You can find us on X, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at The Chris Mac Show, MAC, that is. And of course, hit the subscribe button wherever you're tuning in so you never miss your next daily dose and joining us for your sporting update. Well, it was Tokyo, Saturday night, steady rain, loud crowd, and a little extra tension in the air. This wasn't just any test. It was Eddie Jones, our own version of Voldemort in the rugby union circles, up against the Wallabies. Round 2 of his coaching saga. After that messy World Cup exit and all of that public fallout, the narrative, well, it really writes itself. And you could feel Japan's energy. They wanted this badly. Eddie Jones had them primed to take on his former side. For the Aussies, it was the start of a 5-test run into Europe, and Joe Schmidt threw a curveball, a new-look lineup, a bunch of fresh faces, and a debut skipper, Nick Champion de Crespigny, captaining his country in just his 3rd test. A massive call, and to his credit, he embraced it from the opening whistle and even in the lead-up to lead the Wallabies in what was an honour. And the Wallabies, they began well enough. De Crespigny led from the front, literally barging over for the first try after just 13 minutes. There was clear intent from the Aussies. Get on the board early, play it through the middle, keep the pressure on. Not long later, Josh Fluke crossed for the Wallabies' second. Nice shape, great build-up, and the Aussies went to halftime looking the better side. It wasn't flawless, but it felt composed, wet weather rugby, territory first, and fairly minimal risk. Still, even by the break, you could sense Japan weren't going away. Their line spin was solid, their back row was hunting, and a few of Australia's carriers were starting to get isolated at times at the breakdown. It had that uneasy, this might get tricky feeling if we don't put it to bed. Then came the storm, literally and figuratively, in the second half. The rain intensified, the ball got greasy, and Japan began to roll their sleeves up. Shuhei Takeuchi scored early in the half, and suddenly momentum flipped. Handling errors started to creep in for the Wallabies. Knock-ons in the red zone, missed tackles in midfield, and those little moments that give the underdog just that sniff of belief. Credit to Carlo Tizzano, though. He hit back with a vital try to restore the lead, but the Brave Blossoms just would not go away. Ben Gunter, the Aussie-born flanker, crossed to close it to 19-15 for the Brave Blossoms. A 4-point margin, 20 minutes left, and from there it was edge-of-the-seat stuff. Some disallowed tries along the way, one for obstruction, one for grounding, limited the Aussies, and then it was a whole lot of scramble defence and hanging on. The Wallabies were bending badly. The final 5 minutes felt like an eternity, but somehow they clung on there despite the home crowd and some challenging weather. But let's be honest, this wasn't clinical rugby. The conditions didn't help, sure, but it was those little lapses that made life hard. Defensively, the line integrity wavered, especially when the Japanese went wide. A few defenders were shooting out too early, opening up channels, cutting back on the inside. And in attack, we saw a lack of polish at times, maybe the result of some of those changes. Plenty of go forward through the middle channel, but not enough structures when we got to phases 3, 4, and beyond. The Wallabies dominated possession but couldn't convert it into scoreboard pressure. In dry conditions, that should be a comfortable win. In Tokyo's rain, it became a scrap. On the flip side, giving Japan credit that they deserve. They targeted the ruck where they could, slowed the ball, and forced Australia into a grind they didn't want. Eddie Jones had clearly done his homework, had some clear tactics, and his team did what they could to stick to them. A quick word on the new captain, Nick Champion de Crespigny. What a story. His 3rd cap, his first start as captain, first try as skipper. He was physical but composed, exactly what you want from a player trying to stamp authority. The broader team changes were hit and miss. Some fresh energy, yes, but the cohesion just was missing at times. You could see some players second-guessing each other's lines, defensive reads, and that's what happens with rotation. Joe Schmidt will take the win, but he'll also have plenty of tape to go back over come Monday. After the match, Schmidt summed it up. I don't think it needed to be that tense. You saw a pretty high error rate from both teams because the ball was slippery. Translation, we made it harder than it had to be. And he's right. This one will sting a little, not because they nearly did when they didn't need to. Still, a win is a win. 7 from 7 now against Japan. The streak lives on, and the Wallabies have bragging rights still over Eddie Jones. But now the real test will begin. England, Italy, Ireland and France. 4 straight weeks against the top tier of European opposition in tough European conditions. If the Wallabies want to make noise on this tour, the fundamentals have to tighten up. They need to make sure they focus on discipline, ball security and defensive communication. You can certainly get away with a 4-point escape against Japan with that sort of display, but try that effort at Twickenham or the Aviva and you'll be punished. It's going to be a drubbing if you put out that sort of showing. The good news, they are winning, they're building, and the squad has genuine competition for spots, which is healthy. But after an improved rugby championship, this felt like a reminder that the job is far from done. So there it is. The Wallabies do survive a scare in Tokyo in the lead up to what is going to be a huge European tour, taking on some real heavyweights. 19-15, they get the win over the Japanese. It wasn't clinical, but it was enough to start the tour with a W. And at the end, that is the key factor that we all want to look at week to week. There is certainly plenty to polish before England next week. But for now, we'll take the win. Joe Schmidt will go back to the drawing board and work out what is his best 15. He'll have had a look at some of these players, and I'm sure he'll take some pieces from it and have a look at what they've developed and the opportunities they took in the absence of some of our biggest stars. But for now, that is all for today's Daily Dose on the Wallabies versus Japan game. If you did enjoy the chat, make sure that you subscribe down below. You can hit the bell on your favourite platforms as well to make sure you get notifications each and every time that we drop another episode. And of course, as I said in the intro, you can follow us along to keep up to date in between the shows at The Chris Mack Show on all your favourite social media platforms, from X to Facebook, Instagram to TikTok. We are there. You get highlights, updates, and the best takes in Aussie sport. Thanks for tuning in to your home of the black and white in sport. No grey opinions here. And until next time when we come back with another Daily Dose or some of our live watch-alongs on YouTube, enjoy your sports, and we look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.